I fell in love with him at work. But he was hiding an illness that changed everything. When I accepted the job at BrightLine Publishing, I thought I was finally starting a new chapter. A fresh start after a divorce that had left me shattered. New York seemed like the perfect place for someone wanting to reinvent themselves. In the first week, while I was still trying to figure out where the meeting room was and which coffee shop on the block made the best cappuccino, I heard about Jack. "You haven't met Jack yet?" asked Mia, the marketing coordinator, over lunch. "You're going to like him. Everyone does. He's a little too brilliant, a little too charming, but no one can resist him." I shrugged. I wasn't there to get involved with anyone. Divorce teaches you this. Passion is like too much sugar in coffee. It seems good at first, but soon it makes you sick and gives you a headache. But then, on Thursday afternoon, he walked into my office. "You're the new project manager?" He extended his hand. "Jack Turner, fiction editor." Right away, I felt it. It was him. The Jack everyone had been talking about. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid or late 20s, with messy hair and eyes that seemed to laugh even when he wasn't smiling. "Emma Clark." I shook his hand. "Nice to meet you." "I heard you're from Boston. Have you adapted to the chaos here yet?" He perched on the edge of my desk, casually. "I'm trying. Still mapping out the coffee shops." "Oh, come on." He stood up. "Let me show you something." Without thinking, I followed him. We crossed the floor to the team break room. He opened a drawer and pulled out a crumpled bag. "Best coffee in the neighborhood," he winked. "And nobody knows about it. Editor's secret." I laughed. "You're trusting this secret to a brand new manager?" He smiled. "I think so." That's how it started. The next week, we had our first serious meeting. We were building the timeline for the launch of a promising but chaotic new author. Jack talked fast, gestured too much, scribbled notes in my notebook when I couldn't keep up. I caught myself watching his mouth when he spoke. I hated that about myself. On the way out, he walked me to the elevator. "You think you'll survive BrightLine, Emma Clark?" "I survived an 8-year marriage. This is nothing." He laughed. "I like you." I smiled. "I like you too." And then, as if realizing something, he quickly added, "You'll meet Catherine soon, I'm sure." Catherine, the name that hung in the air every time they talked about him. A partner at the publishing house, his life partner, an almost legendary figure. "Oh, yes." I pretended not to care. "Can't wait." On Friday, there was an informal cocktail party at the office to celebrate an award won by one of the house authors. I thought about not going. I was tired. I wanted a hot bath and Netflix. But Mia insisted. When I arrived, Jack was in a corner, laughing with a group. When he saw me, he made space. "Emma, finally!" He pulled me closer. "You have to try this Prosecco. It's terrible." I laughed. "This is your welcome invitation?" "Of course. Welcome to BrightLine, where even the celebrations are problematic." We talked for almost an hour, in a corner just for us. He told hilarious stories about disastrous book launches. I talked about my years in Boston, about my ex-husband, about how starting over was harder than I'd imagined. He really listened, eyes fixed on mine, as if no one else in the room existed. And then she arrived. Catherine. Elegant, in black, towering heels, blonde hair and a perfect bun. She entered like someone who owns everything, because she did. Jack pulled back slightly. "Oh, I need to introduce you." He waved her over. "Catherine, come here." As she approached, I felt something tighten in my chest. It wasn't just the age difference. It was her weight, her authority, her quiet strength. "Emma Clark, our new manager." "Emma, Catherine." Catherine smiled politely. "Oh yes, I've heard about you. Welcome." "Thank you, it's a pleasure." My voice came out too soft. Jack gently placed his hand on her back. She leaned slightly toward him, almost imperceptibly. That intimate gesture cut through me like a fine knife. That night, I went home trying to understand why it affected me so much. I barely knew Jack. I barely knew Catherine. I had promised myself I wouldn't get involved in emotional entanglements, especially at work. But the image of the two of them together wouldn't leave my mind. On Monday, when I passed Jack in the hallway, he smiled. "We survived the terrible Prosecco." I smiled back. "Barely, but we survived." He walked beside me. "You'll adapt quickly here, Emma. You have a knack for it." "For what?" "For making people like you." He glanced sideways at me, including me. I smiled, unsure of how to respond. He gave me a light tap on the shoulder and walked away. I stood there watching him go. And for the first time, I admitted to myself, this is going to be a problem. I should have pulled back right then. I should have realized early that I was walking into a minefield. But I didn't. I let it happen. The first major turning point came with an unexpected message. On Wednesday, I got an email from the editor-in-chief asking me to accompany Jack on a quick trip to the Hamptons. One of the British authors, Alex Reeves, famous for his dark novels and emotional meltdowns, was going through writer's block and threatening to abandon the project. Jack needed to handle it. I needed to make sure the deadline stayed on track. "Can you leave early tomorrow?" Jack asked me in the hallway with a crooked smile. "It's going to be a sort of battlefield." "I can," I replied, trying to hide the nervous flutter in my stomach. The next morning, we drove together to the author's rented house, an old charming mansion near the beach. In the car, he played a playlist of indie songs I didn't even know. He hummed quietly. He told me stories about when he first started at the publisher, how Catherine had discovered him. He spoke of her with a mix of gratitude and exhaustion. I listened, not quite sure how to process it. Night fell quickly. After hours of trying to calm the author, who was literally throwing drafts around the room, Jack and I finally sat alone on the porch. A comfortable silence. I drank wine. He lit a cigarette. "You don't smoke," I said, surprised. "No," he smiled, looking up at the sky. "Only when I'm trying to look cool." I laughed. He looked at me, serious for a second. "You know, Emma, sometimes I wonder where the boy I used to be went. I look at the life I built, at Catherine, at the publishing house, and I don't know." I took a deep breath. I didn't want to get involved, didn't want to hear, didn't want to, but I did. "Are you happy?" I asked softly. He gave a small, sad smile. "I'm comfortable." We sat in silence. And then he said, almost in a whisper, "You remind me of who I was." I felt a crushing weight in my chest. But I said nothing, because I knew that if I spoke, there would be no turning back. The second remarkable scene came 2 weeks later. It was the launch party for Alex's new book, the same one we had nearly sunk in the Hamptons. I didn't want to go. I already felt I was getting too close to Jack. But Mia practically pushed me into the black dress. "You have to show up. It's office politics." At the party, Jack was with Catherine. He moved among the guests, smiling, always attentive to her. I tried to keep my distance, talking to authors, editors, anyone. But at some point around midnight, he found me on the rooftop. "Emma," he said, coming too close. "You look beautiful tonight." I laughed nervously. "You've been drinking, Jack." "Maybe. A little." He took my hand and didn't let go. We stood like that for several long seconds, looking at each other. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. "We need to talk." My heart raced. I knew it was wrong. I knew. But part of me burned with hope. The next day, I waited. The phone never rang. On Monday, he showed up at the office as if nothing had happened. Formal, focused, distant. I understood, and I felt a pain I couldn't even explain. The third turning point came in a much more brutal way. I was at the office late at night, organizing some documents for a contract, when I heard a notification on Jack's phone, left forgotten on the desk. I shouldn't have looked. I know, but I looked, and I saw. A message from Catherine. The test results came back. Can we talk tonight? I'm scared. I froze. In that instant, everything made sense. The withdrawal, the contradictions, the silences. He was dealing with something much bigger than us. I walked out of there feeling a devastating mix of shame and pain. Because now I knew. I knew he would never come to me. I knew he was trapped in a life he couldn't walk away from. Not now, not like this. The next day, I made my decision. I requested a transfer to another project, far from Jack's editorial division. I started avoiding him in the hallways. He tried to stop me once or twice, but I made excuses, slipped away, ran. I needed to save what little was left of me, until he came to my desk. "Emma," he said, placing his hands on the edge of the desk. "What's going on?" "Jack." I took a deep breath. "I fell in love with you." He was silent. The world seemed to freeze. "And I don't want to destroy myself over it," I continued, my voice trembling. "I don't want to be that person. I can't." He looked at me for a long time. Then he leaned in and hugged me. A long, intense hug, as if it contained everything we weren't saying. When he pulled back, there was a small, sad smile on his face. "I can't, Emma," he said softly. "I won't." And he left. I thought it was over then. I thought that, after that hug, after that, "I can't," everything was finished. But things never end that simply. Weeks passed. I threw myself into work, hid behind tasks, meetings, deadlines. Sometimes I saw him from afar in the hallway. Sometimes I felt his gaze across the meeting room. And I pretended not to see. Pretending became my way of surviving. Until one day Mia came to my desk. "Did you hear about Jack?" she asked softly. My stomach twisted. "Hear what?" "He resigned." I froze. "He's moving to Seattle with Catherine. Apparently she's starting an experimental treatment there." I forced a smile, as if it didn't affect me. As if the ground hadn't just disappeared from under my feet. "Oh," I murmured. "Good for them." That night, I went home and cried myself to sleep. It wasn't just about losing Jack. It was about losing what he represented to me. An unlived piece. A desire that never left the page. A part of myself I had kept silent. 2 days later, he appeared at my office door. "May I?" he asked, without smiling. I nodded, a lump in my throat. He closed the door behind him. "I wanted to say goodbye properly," he said, walking up to my desk. "I couldn't leave without talking to you." I took a deep breath. "You don't have to say anything, Jack. I understand." "No, Emma." He shook his head. "You don't understand." He sat in the chair across from me, his eyes shining, intense. I had to choose, and it was the hardest decision of my life. "I know," I whispered. "I don't know if you really know." He gave a bitter smile. "Because I never told you." He took a deep breath. "I fell in love with you, Emma. I truly fell in love." I felt the air leave my lungs. "But," he continued, "I couldn't destroy everything right now. I couldn't abandon someone who's fighting for her life. I couldn't be that man." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "And maybe deep down, you wouldn't want to be with that man either." I stayed silent, Part of me wanted to scream that he was wrong, that I did want him. Another part knew he was right. He stood up. "If it were another moment," he murmured. "It's not," I finished, with a sad smile. He came to me, held my face between his hands, as if trying to memorize me forever. And then he kissed me, on the forehead. A long, heavy, painful kiss. "Take care of yourself," he whispered, and left. The next week, the office felt empty. I pretended to be normal, but inside, everything felt shattered. I went home late, ate dinner alone, looked at my phone as if it would ring, even knowing it wouldn't. A month later, I received a message. A simple one. "Emma, I hope you're well. Just wanted to say I think of you. Always. Jay." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because I understood that the story we lived was made of everything that didn't happen. And sometimes, that's what leaves the deepest mark. This story transformed me. Not because I lived a great romance, but because I learned that there are loves that don't need to be fulfilled to be real. There are decisions that break your heart precisely because they're made out of love, not weakness. There's strength in letting go. There's courage in not crossing certain lines. And now, looking back, I ask myself, have you ever had to let go of someone you were madly in love with, even without ever getting the chance to live that love?